The media spent a lot of time this week talking about an incredibly unimportant story. And as it's time for us to talk about how the media covered themselves in glory, this is what we've chosen. So, of course, they came out with this Washington Post, the Washington Post, and everybody's been covering this Mary Trump niece book. She's Donald Trump's niece. She's like, oh, he's a terrible, uncouth person who doesn't pay his taxes and blah blah blah. Apparently, she's the person. Cheated on the SAT. Got endless coverage on cable news, blah, 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 all of this. Okay, well, there was another major story this week about tax frauds and cheating and about what was going on around the similar time, and that was with Jeffrey Epstein. And guess what? They didn't cover that at all. The Deutsche Bank, story, which we covered here.
Yeah, huge deal.
Who recalls, by the way, the whole Deutsche Bank Trump thing? That got Maddow segment after Maddow segment after, and most of it turned out to be false. And yet, in this particular case, you have financial regulators being like, oh, here's a major Wall Street bank, which collaborated with Jeffrey Epstein, helped him fund his sex trafficking ring, didn't care what he was doing with the money, and then only cut it off after the Miami Herald publishes the report in 2018. It's absolutely crazy.
Hit with a $150 million fine.
Yeah, nothing. I think it got mentioned on CNBC briefly. Boom. It's like the media is just like, oh, it's not happening. Ghislaine Maxwell, it's the same thing. No real coverage about what's happening here. I see it every once in a while on the primetime, I think on Tucker's show and on Fox and Friends. Everywhere else I've looked for Ghislaine Maxwell coverage, haven't seen one thing. It's insane how they're just ignoring this.
It serves our interests so people can turn in here and find out what's going on.
I'll take it. But.
On the Mary Trump book, here's the thing about so many of these books. Like, probably a lot of the allegations in it are true, more or less true. Although I always think you should be careful about these, like, neat and tidy psychoanalysis takes on anyone, right? Like, it's not just it's just like people are complicated. Your relationship with your dad, your relationship with your brother, those things probably did influence Donald Trump. I think it's fairly likely they did. But to just draw these like neat and tidy lines between he was treated in this way and that's why he's like this, I just think we have to be a little bit careful with that. Probably most of what she says is true. But the thing with all these books is they mostly don't tell you anything that you don't pretty much already know.
It's like, turn on the TV and watch him.
Like, you don't need to go back to his child. Just look at who he is today. Like, people kind of get what's going on here. And so many of these books that are like major bombshells and the media builds them up, they don't change anything about people's perception of Donald Trump because they aren't surprising. They don't really give you any insight or tell you anything that you don't know here. I mean, the Epstein thing has been like this from the beginning. Covered up. Right? They don't want to cover it. They don't want to touch it. It's too hot. It's too complicated. There are too many ties to powerful people. And so that trend, it looked like when Epstein was going to have to face trial, they were going to have to dig into this thing. Major news organizations were staffing up, putting reporters on the beat to actually have to be like forced dragged kicking and screaming to actually cover this thing. As soon as he was dead, it was like, okay, we're done here.
I just looked. Mary Trump's book is one of the #1 books in the country right now. That's what they've done. They've made it so that people are like trying to channel all of the energy towards something like Mary Trump's book.
These resistance people spend so much money.
They really do. How many resistance books do you need that say the same thing, people? And it's like, I want to be like, open your eyes. Look at what's happening with Jeffrey Epstein. They don't. It's a story of power that's corrupted all the way up to the very top, corporate media, Wall Street Bank. Fundamentally, it's really an anti-elite story. Whenever you want to break it down, I think that is why they refuse to touch it.
And that's why it has so much energy and people are so interested in it.
Yeah.
And it's also why they won't touch it.
They won't touch it at all.
All right. Thank you for watching. We'll have more content here for you later.
See you guys.